Good evening, people. So I think it's the time. So let's start with the class. And first class we've already conducted, and I hope that whatever we discussed in the previous class, things did fall into place. Okay. Listen, we don't expect that you should understand society in like very first 2-3 lectures and you will get an idea that how we are supposed to approach. Nothing of that sort will happen. As and when we are progressing slowly and gradually, the things will start falling into place. Okay? And for that, it is very important that you are thorough with your current affairs as well. So for that, we are meeting anyways in the current affair classes. So I think that should also not be a problem. Okay? So what we discussed in the previous class was, we did talk about certain conceptual understanding, as in what do you mean by multiculturalism, then what are different school of thoughts which are incorporated under multiculturalism, whether it is a salad bowl theory or a melting pot theory. We have talked about that. How in context of India, the focus has to be on salad bowl perspective of multiculturalism. What we follow in context of India is integration rather than assimilation. Assimilation is that the individual cultural uniqueness are lost, whereas integration is that although you become the part of the mainstream culture, but even then your individual identity and culture is not lost. The flavor of the individual ingredient is still retained. That is nothing but salad bowl theory. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so this is what we discussed. We discussed what do you mean by society. We did discuss what are the basic attributes of any society for that matter. Then we discussed how no society remains static for all time to come. It undergoes a change. There has been various forces which have emerged so as to bring about changes in society, in any society for that matter. So in context of India, there had been certain forces which has emerged from within the system, as in from within the Indian society. There have been certain forces which has emerged from outside. For example, British rule, for example, Islam, for example, Christianity. They have emerged from outside the system, whereas social religious reform movements have emerged from within the system. And all these forces together has brought about certain changes in context of Indian society. So whether it was the structures of Indian society or it was the culture of Indian society. Structure, basically we mean the various institutions which are existing. For example, family, for example, marriage, for example, caste, for example, religion, for example, education. So these are nothing but the institutions, right? And culture is nothing but the value system, the belief, the ideology, the way of life. In simple words is what we mean when we say culture. So obviously all these forces have brought about significant changes, but most important change which has considerably influenced the nuance of Indian society has been the impact of British rule because of the extent of the contact, right? Then I gave you a diagram in which we talked about the traditional Indian society. What are the characteristic features? For example, how status is determined by the ritual aspect, that is nothing but ascriptive criteria, where your status is determined by the factors which are assigned to you by birth, right? Like your gender, like your caste. Okay? So that is ascriptive criteria. Then we talked about that there is hierarchy in traditional Indian society, strong religious orientation, particularism, collective interest is being given the primacy. Then the modern society in general, I'm not saying Indian society, I'm generally saying any modern society has certain characteristic feature. For example, secular status, that is your status in the society would be achieved. It would be on the basis of the achieved criteria, your education, your economic clout, your political power. That is what we mean when we say achieved criteria or secular status, right? Then we talked about how modern society would be characterized by egalitarianism, okay? Equality with respect to access to resources, equality of opportunity, all of that. Then we talked about rationality, that how modern society would be driven by logic. It would be driven by scientific temper. Every nuance would be subjected to scientific investigation. Matlab, whatever argument, whatever belief system that you have, it can be subjected to empirical verifiability or scientific investigation. Then obviously we talked about individual interest, and finally it was universalism. Then we discussed that how there were certain forces of changes which were introduced because of the British rule, whether it was English language, whether it was secular education, whether it was printing technology or transport communication. It had created the probability of new social change. Similarly, with respect to industrialization, urbanization, new indicators of social status, it created the probability for emergence of new westernized elite class. So it was expected that because of these forces, the traditional Indian society would be transformed into modern Indian society. But that did not happen in context of India. What we witnessed in context of India was mistaken modernity rather than complete modernization. At max what has happened is what we are witnessing. ऐसा नहीं है कि modernization बिल्कुल नहीं हुआ है, but then modernization has been limited, right? Limited on a macro level. Macro level से मेरा मतलब है जैसे education system भाई modernize हो गया, ठीक है, industrialization आ गया, urbanization आ गया, तो modernization reflect हो रहा है. But at the micro level, for example our family, for example our villages, for example our caste, for example our religious beliefs, वहां पे अभी modernization नहीं आया है. We are still governed by a traditional value system. So what you can say is that currently India society is in the process of transition where both traditionality as well as modernity are coexisting. So even the traditional values are coexisting with the modern developments in context of Indian society, and that is also one of the salient feature of Indian society. Is that very clear for everyone? Okay, this is what we discussed. So today we have to go beyond this. I remember I gave you some 3 questions in the previous class. The question were India needs modernization and not westernization. That was first question. The second question which I gave was the paradox that on one hand sex ratio has improved but overall, but sex ratio at birth is still a matter of concern. Then I think there was one more question that was with respect to why sex ratio among scheduled tribes is better than sex ratio among scheduled caste. So let's first begin with the lecture today. In last 10-15 minutes of the lecture, we'll discuss these questions. I hope you have answered these questions. Did you practice these questions? Did you practice these questions? भैया प्लीज ये लगा दीजिए, ये फिर चला गया. रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल लगा दीजिए. रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल कनेक्ट कर दीजिए, मुझे कुछ नहीं दिख रहा है यहाँ पे. So basically we'll start today with the first salient feature, that is joint family, and once we are done with this topic then I'll take up these questions. Okay? So the first topic that we are taking up is joint family. This is how we are going to proceed. Manish, can you please ask the team to start the response portal? This is how we are going to proceed with this topic. First, the concept. Second, the types of family, as in types of family based on marriage, types of family based on residence, types of family based on ancestry, types of family based on composition. Then we have features of a typical Indian joint family. Then functions and dysfunctions of joint family, life cycle of joint family, and impact of globalization on the institution of family. This is how we are going to proceed. Once you are done with it, please let me know, I'll proceed. But even if you let me know, I will not get to know because the response portal is not on. So I really don't know. But anyhow, we'll wait for 2 minutes and then I'll start. I hope whatever I am writing, it is visible. I'll just read it out for you. I'm saying any family. I did not write the definition of a joint family. I have just written the definition of any family. Family is defined as a social group consisting of people united by the ties of blood, marriage, adoption. It is characterized, family as an institution is characterized by common residence, economic cooperation, reproduction, and sexual gratification. So joint family, if we have to write, we'll just add one more statement to it, that joint family extends for 2 or more generations. That is the third point. The difference between joint and nuclear family is nuclear family at most 2 generation, joint family minimum 2 generation. Is this clear? Sexual gratification in our society, Indian society, premarital sex is considered as a taboo, right? So in a family, you enter into a union, that is marital union, which is socially approved sexual union. So to gratify your sexual desire in context of Indian society, you have to enter into the institution of marriage, because in our society, going by the traditional value setup, premarital sex is considered as a taboo. So the one of the purpose of family is also sexual gratification. I hope this is clear for everyone. Okay? What I gave is a general definition of family. The moment you add that joint family is a family which extends for 2 or more generations, then obviously the same definition can apply to joint family. That how joint family is a social group which consists of people united by ties of blood, marriage, adoption, and it extends for 2 or more generations. Nuclear family, जैसे most of our family nowadays, that you have husband, wife and their unmarried children, right? So that is a specific, a very कहते हैं ना layman understanding about nuclear family, that you have husband, wife and unmarried children. So nuclear family is at most maximum 2 generation and joint family is minimum 2 generation. और वो 2 generation भी क्यों? Suppose करो you have let us say husband and wife and they have, let us say, 2 sons and both of them are married. So daughter-in-law of this and daughter-in-law. So this is 2 generation. This will also be termed as a joint family and this is fraternal. इतना डिटेल में जाने का जरूरत नहीं है, तुम लोग को किसी को कंफ्यूजन ना हो इसलिए मैं बता रही हूं that at most मतलब मिनिमम 2 जनरेशन में भी जॉइंट फैमिली आ जाती है. ठीक है, अब ऑब्वियसली अगर इस तरह से एक्सटेंड होने लग जाएगा, नाउ दे हैव देयर चिल्ड्रन, सो तो हो ही गया ना मोर देन 2 जनरेशन. बट इवन विथ 2 जनरेशन ऑल्सो यू कैन कॉल इट एज अ जॉइंट फैमिली प्रोवाइडेड दे हैव द मैरिड चिल्ड्रन. न्यूक्लियर फैमिली में क्या होता है? हस्बैंड वाइफ प्लस अनमैरिड चिल्ड्रन. Is this clear for everyone? Is it making sense? Okay? So this is nothing but the concept of joint family. Now in general, if we are talking about what are the different types of family, so different types of family can be characterized on these bases. Now there is a reason why am I discussing all of this. One, if you get a question on family, you can start with the definition. One thing. Second thing, if there is a difference between joint and nuclear family, the basic understanding should be there. Since it's not an optional paper, I would not further get into the detailing, but at least basic understanding honi chahiye that what is the difference between a joint and a nuclear family. However, there are other types of families also, other bases which can define the families, that is on the basis of marriage, residence, ancestry and composition. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll discuss this with you. Now, what I mean when I talk about the different types of family on the basis of marriage. On the basis of marriage, either you can have monogamous families or you can have polygamous families. ये मैं रीजन बता रही हूं क्यों डिस्कस कर रहे हैं. पॉलीगेमस में भी यू कैन हैव पॉलीजिनी एंड यू हैव पॉलीएंड्री. विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू मोनोगेमस, इट कैन बी अ स्ट्रेट मोनोगेमी and it can also be a serial monogamy. Now wait. See, as the name suggests, many of you might have got an idea what exactly I'm trying to talk about here. See, on the basis of marriage, the family can be of 2 types. Monogamous में क्या होता है? It means that every husband and wife will have respectively one partner, right? So, husband will also have one wife and the wife will also have one husband. Right? So you will have one partner. That is monogamous marriage. But when you have multiple partners, that is known as polygamous marriages. So obviously whether the marriage is monogamous in nature, polygamous in nature will also characterize what kind of family you are going to have. Now within polygamous you have polygyny and polyandry. Polygyny matlab one husband having more than one wife, as we can see in Islam. Whereas polyandry matlab one wife having more than one husband, as we can see in certain tribal communities. Is this very clear for everyone? For example, we have Toda tribe, we have Khasa tribe. So in that, polyandry is visible. So in certain tribal communities, we get to see polyandrous marriages, whereas polygyny ke liye we have example like Islamic communities, where one husband has more than one wife. Is that clear? But when I talk about monogamous marriages, monogamous में क्या होता था कि traditional Indian society there used to be straight monogamy, that not only at one time you have one partner, all throughout your life mostly we used to have one partner, because in context of traditional Indian society, marriage had a religious orientation to it. Marriage as an institution was considered as sacred, right? So divorce, separation was considered as a taboo. And even if your partner dies, which used to happen, so widows were not allowed to remarry. So in that context also, we have often noticed that for the entire lifetime, individual used to have one partner. That is straight monogamy. Is that clear? Okay. Why straight monogamy in traditional Indian society? See, I cannot dictate everything. This is more like a discussion. That is why I'm going slowly. Try to register things, or the column that you have made. I asked you not to draw a margin. You can write it there. Okay. Straight monogamy matlab all your life you will have one partner. And why that was the characteristic feature of traditional Indian society? Because marriage as an institution used to be considered as sacred. And divorce and separation was considered as a taboo. So that is why all throughout your life, one used to have one single partner. Serial monogamy matlab at a time one partner. But that does not mean that all your life you will have one partner. Why? Because marriage no longer, under the impact of Western value system, marriage no longer by certain individuals in the society is considered as sacred. Marriage is no longer the association which is going to extend for 7 births, right? 7 janmo ka rishta. That is no longer the concept which is prevalent, right? Divorce, separation no longer is considered as a stigma. There is destigmatization. So at a time you have one partner, but that does not guarantee that all your life you will have just one partner. So now I'll tell you the reason why are we discussing this. Give me 1 minute. What is the last topic that we are supposed to discuss? Impact of globalization on the institution of family. That's the last topic of this flow chart. Can I say, because of globalization, there is emergence of new value system which has reduced the religious significance of marriage. As a result, there is destigmatization of divorce and separation, because of which we are moving from straight to serial monogamy. Because of globalization, there is emergence of new value system which has reduced the religious significance of marriage. I would have used a word which has led to secularization of marriage, लेकिन वो मैं अभी यूज नहीं करूंगी, नहीं तो फिर आप पूछोगे सेक्युलराइजेशन क्या होता है, वो मैं बाद में पढ़ाऊंगी, ठीक है. So reduce the religious significance of marriage, because of which there is destigmatization of divorce and separation. As a result, we are moving from straight monogamous families to serial monogamous families. Did you understand the point? Is the point clear for everyone? Is this clear? Is it making sense for everyone? Shraddha, the traditional Indian society do not consider married daughters as the part of the family. The daughters are always considered as paraya dhan. So they are supposed to be the part of the family of the husband. Until and unless your society is characterized by matrilineality, और जैसे नायर्स में होता है, ठीक है ना, जैसे गारो खासी ट्राइब्स में होता है, राइट. सो द पॉइंट हियर इज दैट इट डिपेंड्स इफ द सोसाइटी, इफ दैट पर्टिकुलर सोसाइटी इज मैट्रिलिनियल और मेट्रियार्कल, देन यू माइट से. Otherwise, traditional Indian joint family, which is largely characterized by a nature of patrilineality. Give me 5 minutes. Let me just finish it off. You will get an understanding. So, married daughters, वो आज का modern value system है that it is undergoing a change, but largely married daughters are not considered as a part of the family. That is why everybody wants a son. Is this very clear? हाँ, ऐसा है वैभव, absolutely. This is just an example. ठीक है? Is it making sense for everyone? Can we proceed? Now, did you understand why we are discussing these things? ठीक है? Next, on the basis of residence. That's the next point that we were supposed to discuss. On the basis of residence. Now, on the basis of residence, we have 3 types. Patrilocal, matrilocal, and neolocal. Largely, the Indian society is characterized by patrilocal families. Patrilocal basically means after marriage, wife goes to husband's place. That is patrilocality. Matrilocal means after marriage, the women, the girl stays in her own house. For example, you have the tribes, the tribal community, और हम नायर्स की भी बात कर सकते हैं of Kerala. Is that very clear? Okay. Is it making sense? So there are certain families where after marriage, the women tends to stay in her own house. That is matrilocality. Whereas after marriage, often, which is a larger trend on a pan-Indian basis, that after marriages, the women, the wife goes to the husband's place. That is patrilocality. Can I say the reason why am I discussing this is only for that one factor, impact of globalization. So can I say with the impact of globalization, there is emergence of diverse job opportunities, because of which people are migrating to the new place with respect to the job. As a result, after marriage, neither you are moving to the husband's place nor the woman is staying in her own place. Both husband and wife are moving to a new place, and that is why the families are known as neo-local families. emergence of neo-local families. Did you understand? Is this clear? The only reason why we are discussing this is the ultimate question is the impact of globalization on the institution of family. So with globalization, इतना तो हम समझते हैं ना, इतनी तो इकोनॉमिक्स हुई है कि भाई ग्लोबलाइजेशन हुआ है. चलो इस बार का तो यूपीएससी का क्वेश्चन भी था, आईटी इंडस्ट्री. So the globalization has taken place because of which there is emergence of IT industry. However, IT industry has not emerged in every pocket of India. There are certain major cities, for example, Bangalore, for example, Delhi, NCR, Mumbai, that where these Pune, there, these IT industries have emerged. So obviously nowadays globalization has created job opportunities for both the men as well as the women. So they are no longer living in their own hometown. They are moving to these locations where IT industries are established. So because of which there is new type of families emerging known as neo-local families. I hope this is clear for everyone. Question एक ही तरीके से पूछा जाएगा. पुष्पेंद्र, there is nothing to dictate यार, मैंने सब कुछ तो लिख दिया. I've written it on the screen. अब क्या dictate करूं? मतलब यही मुझे dictate करना था. That because of globalization, there is emergence of diverse job opportunities, because of which people are migrating to the new place in search of job. As a result, both husband and wife are moving to a new place, which is leading to emergence of neo-local families. हो गया dictation. Patry locality मतलब Is this clear for everyone? Next is with respect to ancestry. Is this clear? Can we proceed? Third point, ancestry. अरे यार तुम लोग इतना if and but लगा रहे हो. The point here is we are generally talking about these points. Do you have any clue how many types of families do we have in India? ठीक है ना? There are मतलब there are too many types of families, right? We cannot get into the detailing of every type of family. So we have to restrict ourselves based on the broad connotation or the understanding. That is the thing. Is that clear? ठीक है? Next, based on ancestry. See, with respect to ancestry, कुछ खास नहीं है. There are two types. One is patrilineal and other is matrilineal. When you trace your lineage from your father's side, that is patrilineal. And when you trace your lineage from your mother's side, that is matrilineal. For example, you are living, if you are living in a joint family, you are living with the kin group, as in the extended family from your father's side in a patrilineal family. You have the ownership rights in the ancestral property from your father's side, patrilineal family. You use the surname of your father, that is patrilineal families. So basically patrilineal is when you trace your lineage from your father's side. Largely in context of India, the families are patrilineal. Very handful of families are matrilineal in nature. So basically what you witness in context of India is patrilineality. Is that clear? Is that clear? So we have patrilineality and matrilineality. एक लाइन में लिखना चाहो तो लिख दो. When you trace your lineage from your father's side, that is patrilineal family. When you trace your lineage from mother's side, that is matrilineal family. Is that clear? Matrilineal जैसे आपको गारो, खासी, नायर इसमें मिल जाएगा. मैट्री लोकल, somebody asked, अब वो वापस रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल चला गया है, बट somebody asked मैट्री लोकल इंडिया में है कि नहीं है, तो गारो, खासी वहां पे मैट्री लोकल है. ठीक है. मैट्री लीनियल इज अगेन गारो, खासी, नायर. You will witness matrilineal families. You are tracing, you are inheriting the property from the side of your mother. So that is matrilineality. Your lineage is traced from your mother's side. Is that clear? So largely what is witnessed in India is a patrilineal family. Okay? The last point that we were supposed to discuss was with respect to the composition. ये चलता रहेगा चर्चा. With respect to composition, we have joint family and we have nuclear families. Is this clear? But we will keep on discussing joint and nuclear family. तो as such मैं यहां पे नहीं डिस्कस कर रही हूं. Joint family basically अगर हमें characteristic definition की बात करनी हो, so nuclear family at most 2 generation, joint family minimum 2 generation. But then there is a very important difference between a joint family and a nuclear family. That is, in a joint family, blood relations are more important than marital relations. Whereas in nuclear family, marital relation, husband-wife relation is more important than the blood relation. That is why there are many sociological scholars who have said that once the joint family has broken down, let us say into respective nuclear families, then the collection of those nuclear families again cannot construct a joint family. वो न्यूक्लियर फैमिली बाद में जाके खुद जॉइंट बन जाएगी, वो एक अलग बात है. लेकिन अगर सपोज करो, ये पर्सपेक्टिव्स हैं, पर्सपेक्टिव्स हमेशा वेरी कर सकते हैं. एक पर्सपेक्टिव ये कहता था कि क्योंकि जॉइंट फैमिली में जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट एसेंस है वो ये है कि ब्लड रिलेशंस आर मोर इंपॉर्टेंट देन मैरिटल रिलेशन. Whereas in nuclear family, marital relations are more important than blood relations, right? तो एक बार if the joint family has got disintegrated into multiple nuclear families, then those collection of those nuclear families cannot create altogether a joint family again. Is that very clear? क्यों? क्योंकि वो जो essence है ना, that blood relation has to be more important than marital relation has been lost. Is that very clear? One of the perspective है. Is this very clear? ठीक है, we will keep discussing that. So as of now, is this aspect of the heading of flowchart clear for everyone out there? ठीक है. एक और चीज पूछी जा सकती थी, लेकिन अब वो क्वेश्चन उतना रेलेवेंट नहीं होता है, बट स्टिल थोड़ा बहुत रीजनल वेरिएशन है. सेक्स रेशियो ओवरऑल मतलब is skewed in the favor of women, but despite that on a pan-Indian basis, but despite that regional variation still persist. ठीक है, तो अक्सर देखा गया है कि जहां पर the regional variation, the skewed sex ratio has been there, where you have less number of women as compared to men, there have been increased incidences of polyandrous marriages. Is that clear? For example, as in the one woman is being made to marry more than one husband. Is that very clear? So that has been observed in certain regions where the skewed sex ratio has been very prominent and has been against women. Now you might ask the question that ma'am, now what will happen when you have more number of women? तो पहली बात तो we have to confirm the data on the basis of survey, and then we have to observe what would be the unfolding or how the things are going to get unfold. Is that very clear? Is that very clear? अभिषेक हर वक्त नहीं कह सकते. गारो खासी इज देयर, बट नॉट एवरी टाइम यू कैन से दैट. ठीक है. टबू ये होता है यार. गजब कर रहे हो तुम लोग. चलो, can we proceed? Features of typical Indian joint family. These are the features of a typical Indian joint family. ये मैं क्यों बता रही हूं, फिर पता कैसे चलेगा? What context the changes have been brought about? Have we got disintegrated? Do we still witness this typical Indian joint family in the context of India? So patrilineality, that is you are tracing your lineage from your father's side. Patrilocality, that is after marriage, women is going to husband's place. Patriarchy, that is there exists centralized authority within the joint family where power is held by the oldest male member. Common residence, obviously, joint family hai, you people are staying together. Commensality का मतलब होता है, this concept I'll be using again in context of caste system. Commensality basically means interdining, common kitchen, cooking food together. Then common sharing of property. Blood relations more important than marital relations, and age and sex are the main ordering principle of family hierarchy. What I mean by this is oldest male member, maximum power. Youngest female member, least power. So age and sex are the main ordering principle of family hierarchy. Is this clear for everyone? Once we've done this much, now see, did you notice that when I was making this diagram, I had drawn a margin here. The reason being, you directly don't be asked the questions by UPSC from first three sections, as in with respect to concept, with respect to types or features of Indian joint family. Usually UPSC doesn't ask questions from here. Although you have to use these things while writing the answer, but questions are not asked from here. Questions are asked from these three sections. But in order to answer these three sections, you need to have an understanding of these three things. That is why the margin has been drawn here. Now we are going to discuss the functions and dysfunctions of a joint family. Functions as in the positive role, dysfunctions as in the negative role. I'll explain everything. First, just write, I'll explain each and every term which I have written here. You just need to write, I'll explain everything. Functions as in the positive role which the family is performing. Just write down these words. Primary socialization, agency of social control, agency of social insurance, economic cooperation. Within that I've written prevents the fragmentation of assets, secures the economy of expenditure, provides identity and social status to the individual. Dysfunction, lack of privacy, low standard of living, low status of women, lack of individualism, self-alienation, reproduction of social labor, ghettoization, that is us versus them, an arena of contradiction and conflict. This is what are the functions and dysfunctions of the family. The first term that I have written is primary socialization. See, what do we mean by primary socialization? Socialization का क्या मतलब होता है ये बता देती हूँ. Induction of the child into the culture of society. That is primary socialization. That is at an early stage, which is the first school that you and me have visited. Our families, right? So basically, one of the most important function that is performed by the joint family is primary socialization. Dada, Dadi, Nana, Nani, what are the functions that they are performing? They are inducting the child into the culture of society at a very early stage. That is primary socialization. Is that very clear? So write down if you want. Induction of the child into the culture of society is referred as primary socialization. Induction of the child into the culture of society is referred as primary socialization. Basically, value system shape karna children ka according to the values which are existing in the society is referred as primary socialization. Clear hai? Secondly, joint family is acting as an agency of social control. Those who have joint family, they might relate to it. Where are you going? When will you be back? The members in the family are concerned about it, and you are not going to witness this at a very great extent in a nuclear family, because nuclear family mein obviously log kam hote hain, theek hai, and nowadays there is a trend emerging where both husband and wife are working, so they don't have time to look or to oversee what or supervise what the children are doing, right? So in that context, it is the joint family which has always played the role of social control. They are keeping a check on the activities of the individual, and where all these things are making sense. What I'm just trying to say is that where these concepts can be used in the current domain. For example, currently the incidences of juvenile delinquency is on the rise. Juvenile delinquency ka matlab hota hai the deviant activities committed by a child, as in less than 18 years ke jo bacche hain, the crime committed by them. So the incidences are on the rise. Can I say one of the reason, I'm not saying the entire answer, one of the reason is disintegration of joint family? Because in the absence of joint family, there is no one to keep a check on the activities of those children. As a result, the incidences of juvenile delinquency is on the rise. Is that very clear? So they used to perform the role of agency of social control, that is keeping a check on the activities of the family member to prevent them from performing deviant activities. लिख लो अगर चाहते हो तो, margin में लिखो. Prevent the family members, especially the children, from performing the deviant acts. That is the role of joint family in the capacity of acting as an agency of social control. और यहाँ पर star बना के do make a point that in case you get a question, why the suicide rate is increasing, or why the deviant acts among the juveniles is on the rise. One of the reason can be disintegration of joint family. Similarly, why there is increased incidences of corruption of moral values among the kids. Again, disintegration of joint family, because it was the joint family which was performing the role of primary socialization. So with disintegration of joint family, there is increased incidences of corruption of moral values among the kids in the today's scenario. Is that very clear for everyone? So in case the question comes why there is corruption of value system, or why there is increased incidences of juvenile delinquency, why there is increased incidences of stress or the suicide among the youth, everything, one of the factor can be disintegration of joint family. Because joint family also performs a very important role in providing emotional support. It performs a very important role in providing the emotional support. देखा जाए तो ग्लोबलाइजेशन का ही तो इंपैक्ट है. ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से क्या हो रहा है? ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से कैपिटलिज्म आ रहा है. एवरीबडी इज बिजी मिंटिंग प्रॉफिट. देयर इज सो मच ऑफ एक्सपेक्टेशंस व्हिच इज बीइंग क्रिएटेड. व्हेन यू आर नॉट एबल टू मीट दोज एक्सपेक्टेशन, एंजाइटी, डिप्रेशन, सुसाइडल टेंडेंसीज, ऐसे में कौन काम आता है? परिवार वाले, family members, because they are going to provide you emotional support, they are going to provide you social support, they are going to act as a cushion where you can vent out your frustration. But in the absence of joint family, now it is the spouse who are so much dependent on each other कि जरा सा भी कुछ गड़बड़ होती है, the families, the nuclear family in the modern industrial scenario has been turned into in the capacity of overloaded electric circuit. एक ये term use हुआ था आजकल की nuclear families के लिए. अगर आपको नहीं लिखना है तो मत लिखिए, लेकिन एक बात समझा रही हूं that in modern industrial societies, क्योंकि joint families are getting disintegrated, nuclear families are emerging, so the expectation of spouse from each other is very high. तो क्योंकि ग्लोबलाइजेशन है, आप ये रिलेट कर पाते हो? जैसे अगर मैंने अभी बोला कि ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से कैपिटलिज्म हैज इमर्ज्ड. बिकॉज ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म द इंटायर स्ट्रेस इज ऑन प्रॉफिट minting, or the stress is on performance. By competition has increased. If you are not performing, you will be out of the labor market in one go. ठीक है ना? तो पहले तो क्या होता था, थोड़ी स्टेबिलिटी होती थी जॉब सेक्टर में. मोर एंड मोर प्राइवेटाइजेशन इज हैपनिंग, मोर एंड मोर इनसिक्योरिटी, परफॉर्मेंस प्रेशर इज इमर्जिंग. सो देयर इज अ कांस्टेंट स्ट्रेस व्हिच इज क्रिएटेड ऑन आवर माइंड. एंड इन द एब्सेंस ऑफ द जॉइंट फैमिली, द एक्सपेक्टेशन फ्रॉम द स्पाउस इन अ न्यूक्लियर फैमिली इज वेरी हाई. सो नाउअडेज न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज हैव टर्न्ड इनटू एन ओवरलोडेड इलेक्ट्रिक सर्किट कि बस कभी भी फ्यूज हो सकता है. इज दैट वेरी क्लियर? इज इट मेकिंग सेंस? बढ़े आगे, ठीक है? और इसी डिसइंटीग्रेशन ऑफ जॉइंट फैमिली की वजह से, क्योंकि ये ओवरलोडेड इलेक्ट्रिक सर्किट हो रहा है, तो बच्चों के भी अगेंस्ट द फिजिकल अब्यूज बाय द पेरेंट्स हैव इंक्रीज्ड. तो देर आर सो मेनी एरियाज वेयर दिस पॉइंट कैन बी रिटन. आई एम जस्ट हेल्पिंग यू टू रिलेट टू इट. और वो रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल फिर चला गया है, तो मुझे कुछ आइडिया नहीं है कि आप लोग क्या बोल रहे हो. तो बेसिकली आई होप यू आर अंडरस्टैंडिंग. और डू आई नीड टू राइट दैट? ये ग्लोबलाइजेशन का चार्ट बना के बताऊं या आप लोगों ने लिखा है खुद से? ये ना एक टाइम के बाद खुद ही बनाने लग जाओगे. विथ ग्लोबलाइजेशन द इकोनॉमिक aspect is emergence of capitalism. So the goal is profit making, which results into performance pressure, I'm just showing you how the connections can be drawn. Nuclear family has turned into overloaded electric circuit, because of which incidences of domestic violence, disruption of marital relations, children being treated as scapegoat. So physical abuse against child is on the rise. This is just to make you realize that whenever you get such questions, brainstorming has to be done. The more, ये flowchart का objective ही यही होता है, to give you a clarity. Manish, can you please open the response portal? Can you ask the team to open the response portal? Is this clear for everyone? ठीक है? So agency of social control is clear. लिख लिया है ना सबने? Globalization, capitalism, profit making, performance pressure, too much stress, anxiety in the absence of joint family, expectation in nuclear family from the spouses or among the spouses has increased. It has turned into overloaded electric circuit, which has further aggravated these incidences. इसीलिए कहते हैं joint family एक time पर they were very important. Obviously, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have another side to it. पर जब हम functions की बात करेंगे, we will ignore the dysfunctions, and when we are talking about dysfunctions, we are ignoring the functions. Otherwise, हम कुछ लिख ही नहीं पाएंगे. ठीक है? Is this clear? The next is agency of social insurance. This is an important point. Now, in joint family, I'm giving you a statement. You write down that statement, you will understand it better. Write down a statement. From each, according to their capability, from each, according to their capability, and to each according to their need. From each according to their capability and to each according to their need. कहने का मतलब है every individual in the joint family is being taken care of. Whether it is a child, whether it is a widow, whether it is a single women, whether it is person with disability, everyone is taken care of in context of joint family. Whether you are economically contributing something to the family or not, that does not matter. From each according to their capability. So if you are earning well, your share in the family expenses automatically increases. Is that clear? ठीक है? Is that clear? So from each according to their ability and to each according to their need. As in, if you are requiring something, you would be given according to your need, not because of the factor that you have contributed major portion to meet the family expenses, so your share would automatically be high as compared to others. Absolutely not. So in joint family, everyone is being taken care of. That is why in the current context, the government has been facing so much of pressure with respect to child care, with respect to old age care, with respect to person with disability. Why? Because disintegration of joint family has taken place. अभी तक तो क्या होता था? Who used to take care of old people? Joint family. That was never the lookout or the duty of the state. It was always the responsibility of the family. But because of globalization, there has been emergence of individualistic value system, because of which there is disintegration of joint family which is happening. So the vulnerability of old people, vulnerability of a child, vulnerability of person with disability, vulnerability of single women has significantly increased. Is that very clear? Why? Because it was the joint family which used to act as an agency of social insurance. Is it making sense for everyone? Did you understand what is social insurance? From each according to their ability and to each according to their need. Clear hai? See? This is obvious. Economic cooperation. By joint family में there is common ownership of the property. ठीक है ना? Property sharing होती है. So it prevents the fragmentation of assets. And दूसरा, खर्चे कम हो जाते हैं. Secures the economy of expenditure. मतलब जब joint expenses होते हैं तो automatically expenses reduce. दो kitchen का खर्चा will any day be more than the expenditure of one single kitchen. So it secures the economy of expenditure. The overall expenses reduces. ठीक है? ऐसा नहीं है जॉइंट फैमिली में कम होते. It's that if you have to you have to ensure the functioning of two nuclear families, then obviously the expenditure of those two nuclear family will be more than one single joint family. That is what it means when we say secures the economy of expenditure. And finally, many a times it is the joint family which provides you the social status in the society, which provides you that sense of identity, belongingness, emotional support, social support. Okay, so that is the objective or the positive role which a joint family is performing in any given society. Is that very clear? Is it very clear for everyone? Next, dysfunction. See, when we talk about dysfunction, these are obvious. The first 4 points are obvious, right? Obviously, those who have a joint family, they would understand it is very difficult to ensure privacy. I've already told in joint family, it is the blood relations which are more important than the marital relation, and age and sex are the main ordering principles of family hierarchy. And joint family, a typical Indian joint family is patriarchal in nature. So all these 3 points are making it evident that the status of women in the family, in the joint family, is less as compared to other families. Is that very clear? Okay. Then obviously, since it is governed by the collective interest, so the individualistic interest is served less. So there is lack of individualism. So lack of privacy, low standard of living. Why low standard of living? I told you now, everyone's need is met in the family, even if you are not contributing anything to the family. ठीक है ना? So many a times it so happened disguised unemployment. कि भाई फैमिली बिजनेस है, 4 के 4 लोग वही फैमिली बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, बल्कि मे बी 1 person is more than enough to run that business, but what other 3 will do, because that is the family business that they have. So each one of them is working there. So obviously the overall standard of living declines, but that is not the case with every joint family. But I'm generally saying that if we have to write the dysfunctions, this can be. One of the dysfunction can also be high fertility rate. One of the reason why fertility rate has declined in today's time is also because of disintegration of joint family. पहले क्या होता था, परिवारों में बच्चे पल जाते थे, भाई every child used to be taken care of. अब क्या है, the young couples, they are thinking twice before even having a second child. Reason being, cost of upbringing, rearing a child is very high. So in joint families, that used to be taken care of. So that is why one of the dysfunction of joint family was also high fertility rate. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? Now these are some obvious points. However, these are the academic points. इनको हम डिस्कस करेंगे. ठीक है. The first thing is self alienation. Self alienation मतलब you are detached from your own self. लिख लो कहीं ब्रैकेट में, detached from your own self. That is self alienation. You are getting detached from your own self. And why is it happening? See, the concept of self alienation says that in a joint family, you are supposed to behave as per the expectations of others. As in, I do not have the discretion to act according to my whims and fancies. Right? I am constantly under the pressure to act, to behave, to have an attitude according to the expectation of the family members. So in a way, my true personality is not being reflected. So when that is supposed to be happen, for example, you are not acting according to your own wishes. You are not acting according to your own individual personality, but you are acting according to the expectation of others. And that is not happening for 1 day, for 2 days. It is going to happen for every single day of your life. So over a period of time, you get detached from your own personality. There is self-alienation which is happening and which is psychologically very damaging, because you are not allowed to serve your own individual vested interest. You are being asked to act according to the expectations which are being kept by others. So because of which, over a period of time, there is a problem which emerges, which is known as self-alienation. That is, you are detached from your own self, which is psychologically very damaging for any individual. Is this very clear? So that is self-alienation for us. Likh lo if you want to, right? Self-alienation. Individual in a joint family is supposed to act according to the is supposed to act, individuals in the joint family is supposed to act according to the expected norms rather than their true self. Expected norms rather than the true self. Expected norm rather than the true self. Which over a period of time results into detachment from oneself, which over a period of time results into detachment from oneself, known as self-alienation. ब्रैकेट में लिख सकते हो, it is psychologically damaging for an individual. It is psychologically damaging for an individual. Psychologically damaging for an individual. Clear? Next. Reproduction of social labor. Now, for those who have a joint family, they might relate to it. In a joint family, largely, we've been socialized to always conform to the authority. As in, whatever the elders say, you have to agree to it without even questioning. You know that they might be saying something which is very orthodox, very conservative, very regressive, but then you have always been socialized never to question authority. Many a times you've learned a new thing in the school, and when you come back home and you argue, the first thing they've been told, nahi, do kitabhi kya pad li, zyada baatein aa gayi hain. You are never supposed to question your elders in the family. You always have to conform to the authority. So what are you creating? You are creating a class of labor which will always be a fit in the society, which will never question the authority, no matter how wrong the authority is. So that is a perfect fit. No matter how much marginalization, discrimination you've been confronting, you will never question the authority. Why? Because this is how you've been brought up. We have been brought up with a notion to always conform to the authority. कभी आपने सोचा हम ethics में पढ़ेंगे? Have you ever thought that when you give someone, let us say, an order which is very destructive in nature, despite that the person agrees to follow your order? Reason being, we have always been taught to obey the authority, no matter what is the nature of the order which is being given to you. Is that very clear? So you are reproducing a labor which is a perfect fit in the society. They will never question whatever wrong which is happening in the society. That is a very wrong kind of socialization. One should encourage questioning. One should encourage that the doubts should be resolved. One should encourage when the students or the child is asking a question that has to be resolved. But the point here is that you are telling the child that you are not supposed to question those who are in the authority. तो अथॉरिटी फैमिली में कौन होते हैं? वो एल्डर्स. और बाहर मार्केट में जाओगे तो आपके एम्प्लॉयर हो सकते हैं, योर पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स हो सकते हैं, कोई भी हो सकता है. Is that very clear? So that is reproduction of social labor. Write down. In a joint family, an individual is taught to never question the authority, or always submit to the authority, whichever way. Never question the authority or submit to the authority. Hence, in a long run, we create a society consisting of those who are a social fit. Consisting of those who are a social fit. हम पढ़ेंगे ethics में. Ethics में when I'll be teaching you social influence, persuasion, so there is one component which is obedience. और उसमें एक एक्सपेरिमेंट हुआ था स्टैनली मिलग्राम का, that was with respect to destructive obedience. I'll teach you there. So just one aspect I'm borrowing from there, that destructive obedience mein the question arose was why people are even following those orders which are highly destructive in nature. Why is it happening? The reason being that is how you've been socialized. इसीलिए right kind of socialization right from the childhood is very important, because once your value system develops, it becomes very difficult to change it. Right? So if you've been socialized right from your childhood always to conform to the authority, so you will never question, and it doesn't matter in which institution I'm talking about the authority. You will never question police, you will never question political leadership, you will never question the employer, you will never question the family members, and that is how the status quo prevails. क्योंकि पेट्रियार्की प्रैक्टिस होती आ रही है तो होने दो, कास्ट सिस्टम प्रैक्टिस होता आ रहा है तो होने दो. So that is how the status quo is maintained. Is this very clear? Next. Parivarvad, if you understand this term. In a joint family, often what happens is, again I will say that those who have joint family, they might have experienced it. जब बड़ी बड़ी joint families होती थी, so if you're going to school also, if you're going in your neighborhood also, you are known by the family that you belong to. Right? And in that context also, every other person, अरे ये उसका cousin है, अरे ये उसका भाई है, ये उसकी बहन है, or the person is, you know, so and so nephew, niece, or, you know, the son, daughter. So that is that you tend to isolate yourself from the larger society. Because joint families में there is very least incidences where you need a friend. Already you have too many siblings to gel with. So often it happens that your contact or interaction with the outside world is less. And even if that interaction is happening, it is happening in the capacity of us versus them. You do not tend to integrate with them. You do not tend to gel with them. Often it happens that there is a ghettoization which is taking place. Ghettoization matlab within the large society, you have created your own shell. And that shell can be based on anything. It can be on the basis of ethnicity, it can be on the basis of religion, it can be on the basis of family, it can be on the basis of income, whatsoever it is. Right now it is on the basis of your family. So you have created your own small ghetto within the larger society, and where you are interacting with the outside world in the capacity of us versus them. आज के टाइम पे why the outside world के साथ society के साथ interaction is increasing? Because there is no one in the family to interact with. My parents are busy. Siblings also, there are 2 children in the family nowadays in the current trend, and maybe they are busy with their own life. Maybe the thought process is not matching, so they are more interested in interacting with the outside world. पहले क्या होता था, 8-8 9-9 बच्चे होते थे, उसमें भी the extended families, you know, the parents are living with their brothers, then their extended family is also staying together. So there used to be a big huge family, खानदान होता था पूरा. आज तो खानदान ही 3-4 लोगों में समेट जाता है. Did you get the point what I'm trying to say? So that is the traditional joint family. One of the negative aspect was ghettoization. It used to restrict your interaction with the outside world. Is that clear? Finally, the arena of conflict and contradiction. What I mean when I say arena of conflict and contradiction is that on one hand, joint family still talks about cooperation. However, in the current context, the outside world or the society is focusing more on competition. Even today, joint family talks about serving the collective interest. However, the outside world and society is talking about serving the individual interest. So automatically, joint family is emerging as an arena of contradiction and conflict. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? how joint family and society, if we compare, it is emerging as an arena of contradiction and conflict. Why? Because joint family value system still remains the same. However, the outside world, the value system is undergoing a change because of the influence of globalization. Is this clear? Sorry. Are the functions and dysfunctions of the institution of joint family clear? In case you get a 10 marker question or even a 15 marker, will you be able to write the answer? We have discussed sufficient points right now. Clear here? And a disclaimer. If you are studying a certain point in joint family, that does not mean that if the question comes on joint family, only then you are going to think about these points. That is why once we are done with society, you need to revise that at least 2 to 3 times, the notes and everything, so that in case the question comes, you can make the application of that concept. Is this very clear? Is it making sense? Next, life cycle of a joint family. I'll explain everything. Just give me 2 minutes. Right, this much I'll explain. Disintegration. Agriculture is in distress, lack of alternative employment opportunity, lack of basic infrastructure, decline of village industries, primordial identities is the main basis for resource distribution. Basically मेरा कहने का मतलब है जैसे caste driven societies हैं, तो caste driven society हो गई, patriarchal बहुत notions are very rampant, then religion is also the basis of divide. Primordial identities मतलब the identity that you have acquired by birth. So whether it is your ethnicity, whether it is your religion, whether it is your caste, whether it is your gender, all of that. और बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से मेरा मतलब है हेल्थ, एजुकेशन, स्किल डेवलपमेंट. ठीक है. On the other hand, you have industrialization, urbanization, globalization, anything that you can write. Absolutely, yes. We can write more points to it. One disclaimer. These are not the sacrosanct list. You can always add more points to it. Okay? When we talk about basic infrastructure, then we are actually talking about the availability of the resources. Whether it is health, whether it is education, whether it is opportunities for skill development, all of that can be written. ठीक है. एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली जैसे जब आप एग्रीकल्चर डिस्ट्रेस की बात कर रहे हो, ओवरऑल यू कैन राइट पॉपुलेशन प्रेशर is increasing. That can also be one of the reason. Is that clear? There can be many points. See, the only purpose why I made you write like this, there is a reason behind it. When we are going to discuss migration, you will realize that these points are going to get fit into that discussion as well. Now, you need to understand disintegration is happening. ठीक है ना? That means a person is migrating. That is one of the factor. You don't have to write migration here. I have written migration and gave you push and pull factor just to make you understand that migration is one of the factor responsible for disintegration of joint family, right? And within migration, there can be a push factor and there can be a pull factor also. But it might happen that your joint family is getting disintegrated, but not necessarily you are moving to some other place. Within the same city also there can be disintegration taking place. Are you getting the point? ठीक है ना? So that is one of the aspect which I have written. There can be many factors. For example, you can add modern value system. That can be the reason. You want more individualism. You want more space. The women in the family wants to assert their individual identity. They want to improve the status in the family or in the society. There can be multiple factors which can be responsible for disintegration of joint family. Migration is one of them. I gave this kind of elaboration so that while writing the answer, there is a thought process which is emerging. For example, जब migration दिमाग में आ जाएगा तो फिर एक clarity हो जाएगी, अच्छा ठीक है चलो push and pull factor लिखना है, तो कौन कौन से points है जो आप लिख सकते हो. भाई रूरल एरिया से अगर माइग्रेट कर रहे हो तो भाई एग्रीकल्चरल डिस्ट्रेस हो सकता है, लैक ऑफ बेसिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो सकता है, पॉपुलेशन प्रेशर ऑन द लैंड इज इंक्रीजिंग, द विलेज इंडस्ट्रीज इज डिक्लाइनिंग, देयर इज ऑल लैक ऑफ ऑल्टरनेटिव एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी, the social structure is very regressive, people are still governed by the notions of caste, people are still governed by the patriarchal value system. All of those factors can make you migrate to another place. That's one thing. Second thing is maybe you are not migrating from the rural area, you are migrating from the urban space only, and you are migrating from the urban space because whichever urban city or town you were living in, the basic infrastructure was not provided there, your standard of living was low, the quality of life was not as the one you envisioned for yourself. So that can be a possible reason for your migration. The migration can also, the disintegration can also be the factor responsible on the basis of that you are not migrating, you are living in that particular space, but because of modern value system, but because of individualism, because of better status for the family member, because of the feeling to assert the freedom of choice, whether it is with respect to career, whether it is with respect to spouse, everything, you are wanting to move out of your joint family. There can be multiple factors responsible for that. However, once you think about migration in the back of your mind, arranging the arguments becomes easier. Is that clear? Similarly, there can be pull factors. You are migrating to a certain place. So not always the negative factors are pushing you. It might be कि ये problems उतनी rampant नहीं थी, लेकिन ये positive points थे which has created that desire to migrate and which has resulted into disintegration of joint family. I had no issues with my joint family, but then I wanted to move out. Why? Because there were better opportunities for livelihood. There was industrialization happening in Delhi. There was globalization. There was new job opportunities which were emerging in Delhi. Delhi was offering a higher standard of living. It was offering quality of life. तो नहीं बोलूंगी भैया pollution बहुत है. But anyway, higher standard of living was being offered by Delhi. So there are a lot of factors. There were better accessibility to basic infrastructure, health, education, skill development. Okay. So overall, not always the push factor, there can always be the pull factor also, which convinces you to migrate and which might result into disintegration of joint family. Then also there are development of certain legal interventions. अब laws आ गए हैं भाई, minimum wage laws वगैरह आ गए हैं, because of which the economic dependence on the family has declined. एक argument है. So one of the major reason why people used to stay in joint family was also the economic factor. But now with time, with provision of opportunities, with provision of skill development, with provision of legal interventions, the economic reliance on the family has declined, which is also one of the main reason for disintegration of joint family. Then the point which I wrote there was, अरे यार land reforms हम post independence में पढ़ेंगे, land ceiling laws वगैरह आए थे, तो land ceiling laws को evade करने के लिए, because they were implemented on household, so what they did was, क्योंकि एक land ceiling लग गई थी ना household पर, तो उन्होंने क्या किया, they theoretically they partitioned themselves on paper so that that ceiling is not getting applicable on their land holding, but that created or that sowed the seed for the official disintegration of the joint family. So that is one of the factor which could have been written there. Is that very clear for everyone? Industrialization, urbanization, high standard of living, good quality life, access, availability of basic infrastructure, modern value system, globalization, whatever points you intend to write, you can write. Is this very clear for everyone? Is it making sense? Can I proceed? Can I proceed? Reintegration. This is one side of the story, that joint family is getting disintegrated to nuclear families. That is a general understanding which is prevalent, and that is what we also believe. But now there is also one development which is happening where nuclear families are again becoming joint. So let's see how it is happening. One, the concept of chain migration. I'll explain. चेन माइग्रेशन का कॉन्सेप्ट होता है, प्लीज रीड द पॉइंट अबव डिसइंटीग्रेशन, टू इवेट लैंड रिफॉर्म्स theoretical partition happened. ये एरो बना के, आई ऑलवेज राइट द पॉइंट्स इन द फॉर्म ऑफ फ्लो चार्ट. To evade land reforms, there was theoretical partition which sowed the seed of disintegration. Clear? Now, let me come to this point. What I was trying to say here is reintegration कैसे हो रहा है. Chain migration का मतलब है, let us take a example. We were staying with our family. There was husband, wife, there were 2 sons, and one son, one daughter, whichever way you want to place it. So now what happened? Let's take the example of 2 sons. So one of the son, for better job opportunity, for better education, let us say, he moved to Delhi. Now in Delhi, he first accessed the education. तब तक joint family थी. भाई एजुकेशन पूरी हुई, जॉब भी दिल्ली में ही लग गई, एंड आफ्टर दैट द फैमिली डिसाइडेड टू गेट हिम मैरिड. नाउ ही गॉट मैरिड एंड ही हैज मूव्ड टू द न्यू प्लेस वेर एवर ही इज वर्किंग. ठीक है, सो लेट अस से ही इज स्टिल वर्किंग इन दिल्ली एंड नाउ ही इज मैरिड, ही हैज हिज ओन हाउस. Now what happened was the second brother also wanted to get access to the job. He has also been given job, but there were 2 options given to him. One, the company was asking him to shift to Bangalore. The other, the company was asking him to shift to Delhi. He preferred shifting to Delhi because older brother, because for him both the places, Delhi and Bangalore, are new. Right? But in Delhi, he would have a support system because his brother has already been residing in Delhi for a very long period of time. So it would be easier for him to access the resources. It would be easier for him to comfortably settle down in Delhi. So as a result, he preferred to move to Delhi. Now the thing was that in Delhi, the cost of living is very high. So then obviously the other brother, would have been very expensive to manage 2 different household. So first the chain migration happened कि जब आपकी family से कोई एक कहीं चला जाता है, the probability of the other family members for the purpose of education or for that matter of employment or in general, the probability is very high to move to the place where already one of the family member is staying. अब ये भाई भी वहां चला गया. अब मतलब आइडियली देखे तो 2 अलग अलग घर में रह सकते थे, बिकॉज एक भाई अपने घर में रह रहा है, बट उसके लिए फिर क्या होता कि हाउस होल्ड एक्सपेंसेस वुड हैव बीन वेरी हाई. सो देन दे डिसाइडेड कि नहीं, तुम साथ में ही रह लो. So it would be easier. It would secure the economy of expenditure. And now both the brothers are living there, and one of them is also comfortably settled. The other one is also getting into the groove of job. Now the father and mother, they are retired. They have nothing left to be taken care of in their native place. So obviously the son also thought it would be very difficult to ensure the security of the parents. So why not call them also there? So now entire reintegration has taken place. They could have stayed in a separate household, but then they realized that managing 2 separate households, given the cost of living, which is very high, would be a challenge. So rather than having 2 separate 2 BHKs, it is better to have 1 3 BHK so that it can secure the economy of expenditure. ये मैंने आपको बहुत layman language में example देके बताया है. Otherwise in the exam you have to write it like this. Is this very clear? कहानी घर घर की types. Did you get the point that how reintegration is taking place? So this is one of the way in which the reintegration is happening. There is another way in which reintegration is happening. One of the reason why reintegration is happening again is also because who will take care of the child in a dual career family. Now you had, there is a family of Sharma ji. So Sharma ji had 1 son. The son has moved to, let us say, Delhi or Bangalore for that matter. And he got married, he has his own life. Now a separate living is being ensured. So there is disintegration which has taken place. However, now Sharma ji's son had a kid, right? And now both the son as well as the wife is working in MNC in the IT sector, और तब तक वर्क फ्रॉम होम आया भी नहीं था, कोविड पैंडेमिक नहीं था, तो ऑब्वियसली हु वुड टेक केयर ऑफ द चाइल्ड? Leaving the child at the mercy of domestic helpers, obviously it is creating stress and anxiety. Creche facilities are also not very developed. Then there is always an issue, what kind of socialization would be provided by the outsiders. So there is always a belief that a family member, the elders in the family, can provide a basic value system. They can provide much better care. So because of this concept of child rearing in a dual career family has also resulted into reintegration of joint family. Is that clear? ठीक है. Third point. Now, just try to understand. There are many joint families, many, in which the person has migrated only for the purpose of, let us say, job or for the purpose of education. But इस point को बहुत ध्यान से सुनना, अब कुछ भी नहीं लिखना, सिर्फ सुनो. Many a times, majority of the cases, what is happening is that you are moving out not because you wanted to, you are just moving out because in your hometown, the opportunities were very limited. So obviously with respect to, let us say, education, employment opportunity, or for any skill development, you have moved out. Now you wanted your parents to come, but then parents didn't want to leave their native place. भाई वो उतने सालों से वहां रहे हुए हैं, या आप लोग के साथ भी हुआ होगा जो लोग काम कर रहे होंगे कि that you want your parents to come, but the parents are not interested because they are living a very comfortable life in their own native space. So now what has happened? अगर आपने notice किया हो, residentially we have become disjoint. There is disintegration which has happened with respect to residence. No longer you are sharing a common residence, no longer you are sharing a common kitchen. Obviously, अगर एक बंदा जैसे your hometown is, let us say, in XYZ place and you move to ABC place, so obviously the residence has changed, the kitchen has changed, but even then, the functional aspect of joint family is still retained. Any kind of celebration, any kind of festival, any kind of ceremonies which is happening, you come back and you celebrate that with your family members. In case there is a need for any kind of physical or financial help, you are always present to help your family members. Even today, the ritual bonds are shared between you and your family members. You are worshipping the same God. You are performing the same ritual. In the matter of marriage, death, birth, you are always there to provide all kind of physical, financial help. So there is cooperation, there are sentiments involved, the ritual bonds are involved. आप श्राद्ध वगैरह वाली ceremony भी सब साथ में कर रहे हो, periodic propitiation of dead ancestors. So you are performing every aspect of joint family in the functional capacity. However, residentially, you have become disintegrated. So when this thing was happening, so many sociological scholars were under the fix that do we need to call this as a disintegration of joint family? Because only the residential aspect of family has become disintegrated. The functional aspect is still retained. So in this particular scenario, there was a concept which was introduced by the scholars, and that concept was known as household. This household as a concept is characterized by common residence and common kitchen. Only these two features. Only these two. Household is known for common residence and common kitchen. तो आपका जो ये पीजी है, हॉस्टल है, इस सबको हम हाउसहोल्ड कह सकते हैं. भाई आप जिसके साथ पीजी में रहते हो उसके साथ प्रॉपर्टी तो शेयर नहीं करते हो ना, जिसके साथ आप हॉस्टल में रहते हो, लेकिन हाँ रह एक ही जगह रहे हो, खाना एक ही किचन में बन रहा है, ठीक है ना. सो हाउसहोल्ड इज नोन एज बाय दीज टू फैक्टर्स. सो आफ्टर दिस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट इट वाज नोटिस्ड दैट इट इज ओनली द जॉइंट हाउसहोल्ड which is getting disintegrated, not the joint family. But this is not always the case. I have given you a specific example that in this scenario you will say that it is the joint household which is getting disintegrated and not the joint family, because even today the functional aspect of a joint family is still retained. Write down. It was observed that functional jointness, it was observed that functional jointness it was observed that functional jointness is still retained due to performance of physical and financial obligation. Functional jointness is still retained due to performance of physical and financial obligation. Second, family still retained, I'll repeat, functional jointness is still retained due to performance of physical and financial obligations. Second, family still retained joint family ethics. Family still retained joint family ethics. For example, participation in functions, ceremonies. You might have seen if your siblings have got married, or even if anyone out there is married. So you might have seen that जब दिवाली होती है या रक्षा बंधन है या कोई भी फेस्टिवल है, ठीक है, you tend to go back to your native place and you want to celebrate it with your entire family. So that functional jointness is still retained. That is what I mean. So yeah, write down, family still retains the joint family ethics. For example, participation in functions, rituals, ceremonies, festivals, etc. Participation in functions, rituals, ceremonies, festivals, etc. Hence, we can say it is the joint household that is getting disintegrated and not the joint family. But I'm putting a disclaimer, not with every family, certain families, right? So it is the joint household which is getting disintegrated and not joint family. So with respect to reintegration, the first point that we discussed was chain migration. The second point that we discussed was child rearing in dual career family. The third point was how the household is getting disintegrated and not the family. The fourth point you can write is industrialization. I know you must be wondering that industrialization is responsible for disintegration also and it is responsible for reintegration also. ठीक है, now let me explain. Suppose करो हमारी joint family थी. I think somebody wrote there ना कि resources नहीं हैं and everything. So fine, let us say that we had a joint family and because of some incident we were not able to sustain that joint family because we did not have the income opportunity. So one family member, they seeked an opportunity in some XYZ place and the person moved. He established his own industry there, a small, let us say, warehouse से start किया था, फिर धीरे 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 करते करते factory develop हो गई. After 10 years he was like, nahin, now I am capable enough to sustain the entire family, so you guys also migrate to that place and let's again live together. So industrialization not only is responsible for disintegration, it is also responsible for reintegration. Why? Because industrialization provides the economic basis to sustain a joint family. भाई जॉइंट फैमिली सस्टेन हवा में थोड़ी ना हो जाएगी, उसके लिए पैसा चाहिए. इफ यू डू, एक बात बताती हूँ, कभी ध्यान से सोचना, ऑब्जर्व करना. Although joint family is a salient feature of Indian society, you would not find joint family everywhere. Because in order to sustain joint family, the economic resources has to be there. For example, in lower caste people, you will not find joint family. Because often lower caste people are indulged in menial jobs because of the rigid caste system that we have. So because of that, indulging into the menial job, they have to move from one place to another constantly in search of some or the other job opportunities, right? And that menial job is not enough to give them enough pay to sustain a joint family. You would not find a joint family in a lower caste community. Similarly, you will not find a joint family in the hill areas. Largely, joint families are found in the areas where there is more opportunities for growth, specifically like एग्रीकल्चरल प्लेन एरियाज. तो जहां पे एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोस्पेरिटी है, ग्रोथ है, वहां पे आपको जॉइंट फैमिलीज बहुत देखने को मिलेंगी. बिकॉज टू इन ऑर्डर टू सस्टेन जॉइंट फैमिली, सम अमाउंट ऑफ इकोनॉमिक रिसोर्स हैज टू बी देयर. इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन प्रोवाइड्स दैट इकोनॉमिक बेसिस required to sustain a joint family. Is that very clear? Is it making sense? Clear है सबको? आगे बढ़े. Industrialization provides the economic basis to sustain a joint family. ठीक है. Now, let us suppose we had a joint family. One of the person migrated so as to look for better opportunity. One family member. This member later got married, had kids, and started living his own life. Disintegration happened. However, slowly this person realized that economic survival is becoming a challenge. In the destination area. As a result, the person came back to the native place. When the economic survival becomes the challenge in the destination area, then person tends to come back to the native place and start living with the joint family again. This was very largely witnessed during the time of demonetization, especially in the informal sector workers, and this has also been witnessed in the current COVID scenario, when there was a mass exodus of migrants back to their native place because the economic survival was becoming a challenge. So in the backdrop of COVID pandemic, there has been lot many incidences where reintegration of joint family has been witnessed. Is this very clear for everyone? Similarly, this was at least forced migration which happened. Because a person wanted to stay in this area, but economic survival was becoming a challenge. So the person was forced to migrate back to the native place. It might also happen voluntarily. Voluntarily कब होता है? When there is increased feeling of nativism. घर की बहुत याद आ रही है, गांव की बहुत याद आ रही है. So no matter how much opportunities are being offered by the destination area, a person comes back to their own areas. That's more because they are missing their hometown. Is this clear? Is it clear for everyone? ठीक है? So feeling of nativism. So it is because of the increased feeling of nativism which has also encouraged reintegration of the joint families. Clear है? एक बहुत ही कॉमन तरीका है which is like everyone story. Let's take example of Dhirubhai Ambani. Dhirubhai Ambani had two sons, Mukesh Ambani, Anil Ambani. ठीक है? And obviously they were married, so wife plus children. So is it evident that this is a joint family? ये कहानी घर घर की है. So it is evident that this is a joint family. Now with the death of male patriarch or any dispute, whichever was the reason, usually either the death of the male patriarch or the dispute, there was disintegration of joint family. Now two nuclear families were created. Is that clear? ठीक है. Now with Mukesh Ambani's son getting married and is also having his own son now, who is nothing but grandson of Mukesh Ambani, this nuclear family again has been transformed into a joint family. ये हर घर की कहानी है. So I gave you this example just that in case you have any confusion that ये कहाँ fit होगा, तो ये ऐसे ही fit होगा. That once with the death of male patriarch, और आप इसको ऐसे अब एग्जाम में धीरू भाई अंबानी और मुकेश अंबानी नहीं लिख के आना. With the death of male patriarch or any legal dispute, joint family gets disintegrated into separate nuclear families. However, this nuclear family over a period of time further gets transformed into a joint family with the birth and marriage of the son and the birth of the grandchildren. Is that very clear? So this is a process. How we had a joint family because of the death of the male patriarch. There was creation of two nuclear families. However, now with the marriage of the son of Mukesh Ambani and the son giving birth to a child, now a grandson, so 3 generations together, it is nothing but a joint family. Is this very clear? ये मैंने लास्ट में इसलिए बताया क्योंकि ये एकेडमिक नहीं है. This is very normal. Is this very clear? Can we proceed? ठीक है, चलो यूपीएससी क्वेश्चन लिखते हैं. राइट डाउन यूपीएससी क्वेश्चन. Life cycle of joint family is based on economic factors rather than social values. That's the question for you. You have 5 minutes. Give me the structure. Give me the structure of the answer. You have 5 minutes. It's a UPSC question. No point of studying if we are not able to solve UPSC questions. पांच मिनट है, स्ट्रक्चर दो. Life cycle of joint family depends on economic factors rather than social values. You have to discuss this. Take your time, but give me a decent structure. सोच के देना. This is the first question which I am discussing in the class. हाँ अंशुल, no need. If you don't want to agree with the statement, don't. Totally your choice. Discuss करना है statement. But सबसे बड़ी बात है, they have not asked your opinion. They have not said comment. It is a discussion. Discussion is an open-ended discussion. Whichever way you want to discuss, you can discuss. आपके पास जो points हो justify करने के लिए, आप वैसे justify कर दो. आशीष जॉइंट फैमिली की डेफिनेशन देंगे, फिर अबाउट इकोनॉमिक एंड सोशल फैक्टर्स एंड इट्स इफेक्ट, देन व्यूज ऑन बोथ एन एग्जाम्पल कंक्लूजन. आशीष 10 मार्कर है बच्चे, 1.5 pages. Will you be able to write this much? पारस फाइन. वैसे आशीष गलत नहीं था वो, बस मेरे को ये लग रहा है कि लिखेंगे कैसे. पारस आई थिंक इट्स फाइन. Okay, let me see. Bharat, fine, absolutely correct. Prachi, then make a flow chart of the life cycle of a joint family, disintegration, transition, explains the point. Perfect, perfect. Prachi, perfect. Joint family, थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे करना है, वो मैं अभी बताती हूँ. Otherwise, very good. वैभव. वैभव थोड़ा सा हम डिविएट कर गए, लेकिन चलो ठीक है. इट डिपेंड्स कि हम लिखेंगे कैसे. लेट मी सी दैट. ठीक है. समटाइम्स आई एम नॉट टेकिंग योर नेम, इट्स जस्ट बिकॉज मुझे इतनी दूर से ना नाम एग्जैक्टली दिख नहीं रहा है. अदरवाइज आंसर ठीक है. वो नाला, एम आई प्रोनाउंसिंग इट करेक्टली, पता नहीं. इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर्स, कंक्लूजन, फोर्स्ड माइग्रेशन. ठीक है. ओके. मिताली. मिताली फंक्शनिंग पे नहीं लिखना है, फंक्शनिंग तो पूछी नहीं है. राहुल. राहुल आई लाइक दैट. फाइन, इट्स फाइन. परफेक्ट. रिया. गुड रिया, गुड. एक और ने लिखा है शुभम. शुभम या शुभम, फाइन. ठीक है. मोर और लेस यू गाइज हैव अंडरस्टूड. ठीक. यहां लिख दूं? सी why did I discuss this question? There is a reason. एक तो हम टॉपिक पढ़ रहे थे, दूसरा I wanted to highlight the importance of linking statement. ठीक है, I will just discuss with you कि to 2020 and 2021 दोनों के मैंने हैंड रिटन आंसर्स बनाए हैं. तो either you guys can see it on my Telegram channel और जो YouTube वीडियो है उसके डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में है. सो माय टेलीग्राम चैनल पे ऑल द मटेरियल विच आई कीप प्रिपेयरिंग, my handwritten notes, or for that matter current affairs, or for that matter previous year ka mains 365, everything is provided on that channel. If I prepare any essay material or something like that, I keep posting on my Telegram channel, so you can avail that. So it is Spritisha_Vision IAS. I think that is the name of my channel. So in case मिल जाएगा यार, Spritisha_Vision IAS डालोगे तो मिल जाएगा टेलीग्राम चैनल, तो उस पर मैंने डाला हुआ है, वहां जाके देख लेना. खैर मुद्दे पे आते हैं. So the question is, you start with the introduction, definition of joint family, which most of you have done. लिंकिंग स्टेटमेंट, आई थिंक किसने तो लिखा था कि लिंकिंग स्टेटमेंट नहीं लिखा था, लेकिन आई थिंक प्राची थी या किसने था, ये बात बोली थी कि लाइफ साइकिल को एक्सप्लेन करना है. सो यस, ऑब्वियसली नो फैमिली रिमेन स्टैटिक फॉर ऑल टाइम और जॉइंट फॉर ऑल टाइम टू कम. इट अंडरगोज अ लाइफ साइकिल. अब वो लाइफ साइकिल पूरा बताने से 10 नंबर का क्वेश्चन है यार, इतना स्पेस भी नहीं है. ये बना दो, यहां पे डिसइंटीग्रेशन लिख दो, यहां पे रीइंटीग्रेशन लिख दो, तुमने लाइफ साइकिल भी बता दी, तुमने उसे मेन क्वेश्चन से लिंक भी कर दिया. और जॉइंट फैमिली की भी डेफिनेशन बहुत डिटेल में लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. इट इज डिफाइंड एज अ सोशल ग्रुप व्हिच कंसिस्ट ऑफ पीपल यूनाइटेड बाय टाइज ऑफ ब्लड, मैरिज, अडॉप्शन. इट एक्सटेंड्स फॉर 2 or more generation. Full stop. No family remains joint for all time to come. It undergoes a life cycle, joint to nuclear, nuclear to joint, disintegration and reintegration. Then when you are talking about body, body will have 2 parts to it. But in that 2 parts, social value का content would not be emphasized much. That's my take on the answer. किसने तो पूछा था, आई एम सो सॉरी, अभी नया नया बैच है ना, मुझे नाम याद नहीं हो पा रहा है, जिसने शुरू में पूछा था मुझसे कि मैम हम कोई और स्टैंड ले सकते हैं, आप डिसअग्री कर सकते हो. टोटली डिपेंड कि आपको आंसर कैसे लिखना है. आई एम गोइंग बाय द स्टैंड. सो बिकॉज दैट्स माई पर्सनल बिलीव. आई बिलीव कि इकोनॉमिक फोर्सेज आर द मेन फैक्टर फॉर एवरी डेवलपमेंट दैट इज हैपनिंग इन सोसाइटी. अगर लिंग्विस्टिक स्ट्रेस भी हो रहा है ना, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो रहा है, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर. अगर रिलीजियस कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो रहा है, इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर. अगर पेट्रियार्कल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है तो भी इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर. घूम फिर के हर चीज इकोनॉमिक फैक्टर से ड्रिवन होती है. ये हम डिस्कस कर लेंगे एज द classes would proceed. Anyway, so social values are impacting life cycle. That's a fact. ठीक है. So I will write few of the social values which are impacting the life cycle of the joint family. For example, और इसको मैं ज्यादा डिफाइन नहीं करूंगी, मैंने लिख दिया ग्लोबलाइजेशन, इंडिविजुअलिज्म, ठीक है, ऑटोनॉमी फॉर विमेन और विमेन एम्पावरमेंट, ठीक है, या फिर फीलिंग ऑफ नेटिविज्म एक्सेट्रा. These are the social values which are impacting the life cycle. However, it largely depends upon the economic factors. फिर मैं 2 पार्ट्स में इसे डिवाइड करूंगी. अब आपकी चॉइस है. अगर आप चाहो तो इस तरह से डायग्राम बना के कर सकते हो भाई. आधे पेज पे 2 पॉइंट्स 3 पॉइंट्स यहां लिख दो डिसइंटीग्रेशन में, 2-3 पॉइंट्स आप रीइंटीग्रेशन में लिख दो. अभी हमने पढ़े हैं यार, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन हो गया, ग्लोबलाइजेशन हो गया, एग्रीकल्चर डिस्ट्रेस हो गया, कितना कुछ है लिखने के लिए. यहां पे डाल दो चेन माइग्रेशन हो गया, ठीक है. फिर आप इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन यहां पे भी डाल सकते हो, या फिर आप डिफिकल्टी इन सर्वाइवल इन द डेस्टिनेशन एरिया, तो फोर्स्ड माइग्रेशन किसी ने लिखा था वो पॉइंट, तो आपने डिसइंटीग्रेशन और रीइंटीग्रेशन के पॉइंट्स बता दिए. फिर आप एक ओवरऑल कंक्लूजन एक लाइन में देकर खत्म कर सकते हो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, आई थॉट वी कैन राइट दैट न्यूक्लियर फैमिली एंड जॉइंट फैमिली कैन नॉट बी व्यूड एज डिस्टिंक्ट आइसोलेटेड इंडिपेंडेंट यूनिट बट इंटररिलेटेड इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ द लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ अ फैमिली. आप कुछ भी लिख सकते हो, ठीक है. तो कंक्लूजन हम लिख सकते हैं दैट न्यूक्लियर फैमिली एंड जॉइंट फैमिलीज शुड नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज इंडिविजुअल, इंडिपेंडेंट एंड डिस्टिंक्ट यूनिट्स but different phases in the life cycle of a family. आप कुछ और भी लिख सकते हो, मैं सिर्फ आपको एक एग्जांपल देके बता रही हूं. You could have written anything that you wish to, not necessarily this. Is this very clear? Is this clear? More or less you guys have understood. And more or less you guys have written also right answer. It's just that मैंने थोड़ा स्ट्रक्चर करके बता दिया कि ऐसे आप लिख सकते हो. अगर डाउट हो पैराग्राफ में लिखना है, कोई ऐसा हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल नहीं है. आई ऑलवेज बिलीव इट शुड बी अ ब्लेंड ऑफ पैराग्राफ, बुलेट पॉइंट्स, डायग्राम. ठीक है. द पॉइंट इज द इंटायर aspect, the coverage should be holistic so that every aspect which is asked in the question is addressed in the answer. That is more the concern rather than being concerned about paragraph writing or bullet points. और वैसे भी यार 10-15 मार्कर्स है, पैराग्राफ में इतना स्कोप बचता नहीं है. तो इंट्रोडक्शन, लिंकिंग स्टेटमेंट, कंक्लूजन, ये तो वैसे भी तुम लोग एक तरह का पैराग्राफ ही लिख रहे हो. बाकी सारे पॉइंट्स तो जितना ब्रीफ में, जितना बुलेट पॉइंट्स, जितना डायग्राम, द मोर यू आर गोइंग टू इनकॉर्पोरेट द बेटर इट वुड बी. अरे ऐसा कोई हार्ड एंड फास्ट कंक्लूजन नहीं है. फिर भी देख लो क्या लिखा था मैंने. न्यूक्लियर फैमिली एंड जॉइंट फैमिली शुड नॉट बी ट्रीटेड एज इंडिपेंडेंट एंड डिस्टिंक्ट यूनिट्स बट डिफरेंट फेजेस इन द लाइफ साइकिल ऑफ अ फैमिली. भाई एक फैमिली तो है, उसके अपने अपने लाइफ साइकिल्स हैं. कभी वो जॉइंट है, कभी न्यूक्लियर हो गई, कभी फिर जॉइंट हो गई. तो वही है. So nuclear families and joint families, instead of being viewed as distinct, independent, isolated units, it should be treated as different phases in the life cycle of a family. एक conclusion है, आप कुछ और भी लिख सकते हो, totally your choice. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. कृतिका, हाँ कृतिका बिल्कुल लिख सकते हो जॉइंट हाउस होल्ड. एट द एंड ऑफ इट लिख दो. अगर चाहो तो ये भी लिख दो कि देयर वॉज अ डोमिनेंट थॉट प्रोसेस विच सेड इट वॉज द जॉइंट हाउस होल्ड विच गॉट डिसइंटीग्रेटेड अल्टीमेटली एंड नॉट द जॉइंट फैमिलीज. एब्सोल्युटली यू कैन राइट, नो इश्यूज. इज दिस क्लियर फॉर एवरीवन? Did you understand that UPSC questions, and trust me, supposedly this was considered as thoda sa analytical and slightly challenging question. And trust me, अगर क्लास ठीक से करी है, देखो मैंने एग्जैक्टली ये नहीं पढ़ाया, लेकिन अगर क्लास तुम लोगों ने करी है तो आंसर तो कर ही लोगे. थोड़ा सा इधर उधर बस एडजस्ट करना है. And which I'm very surprised, this is your second lecture and most of you have answered absolutely correct. Is this very clear for everyone? Can we proceed? Next. इतना लिखो, then I'll explain everything. Write this much, then I'll discuss. Impact of globalization on joint family. See, you must be wondering that why did not I write positive impact or negative impact? Again, that's my individual discretion. I believe that whenever we are discussing the impact, let us say of globalization on sections like women, old age, youth, then we can discuss positive, negative impact, right? But when we are discussing on institutions, then I prefer that let's not get into that narrowed interpretation of positive and negative. Why? Because it would not be very simple to just compartmentalize it as positive or negative. It's better to discuss with respect to broad dimensions. So when we are discussing the impact, let us say on marriage or caste system or family as an institution, so rather than writing positive, negative, we can look for broad dimensions on which the impact can be discussed. Has it impacted the structure of joint family? Yes, it has. Has it impacted the functions of joint family? Yes, to a certain extent. Has it impacted the interpersonal relationship within the family? Yes, it has. And you can look for more dimensions. Totally your call. Again, there is subjectivity in society paper and this is not an hard and fast rule that ऐसे ही मुझे आंसर लिखना है, बिल्कुल भी नहीं, और यही पॉइंट्स लिखने हैं. ये एक बेसिक थॉट प्रोसेस का बिल्डिंग है. Once you are comfortable with the idea, then you can further brainstorm. Is that clear? ठीक है? Yes, Riya, absolutely you can. Can we proceed? So obviously, with respect to the structure of joint family, what I have written is there is happening disintegration of joint family. That is one thought process. Obviously, many of you can say, मैम अभी हमने डिस्कस किया कि नहीं disintegration family का नहीं हो रहा है, household का हो रहा है. लिख दो, वो भी एक point लिख दो यहाँ पे कि it is only the household which is getting disintegrated, not the family. Your choice. ठीक है ना? So one thing with respect to structure, one of the argument is yes, disintegration of joint family is happening. ठीक है, करप्शन ऑफ वैल्यू सिस्टम आ रहा है, इंडिविजुअलिज्म आ रहा है, ऑब्सेशन विथ मटीरियल रिसोर्सेज आ रहा है, डिसइंटीग्रेशन तो हो ही रहा है फैमिली सिस्टम का. इज दैट क्लियर? सो देयर इज डिसइंटीग्रेशन ऑफ जॉइंट फैमिली विच इज हैपनिंग. ठीक, देन देयर इज एमर्जेंस ऑफ न्यू फैमिलीज, न्यू फॉर्म्स ऑफ फैमिली. हम ये नहीं कह रहे कि जॉइंट फैमिली सिर्फ डिसइंटीग्रेट हो रहा है. वी आर ऑल्सो सेइंग दैट अलोंग विद डिसइंटीग्रेशन ऑफ जॉइंट फैमिली देयर आर न्यू टाइप्स ऑफ फैमिलीज विच आर इमर्जिंग. सो देयर इज एमर्जेंस ऑफ न्यू फैमिली विच इज हैपनिंग. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, द फर्स्ट थिंग, न्यूक्लियर फैमिलीज विथ एक्सटेंडेड टाइज. Most of us are living in this setup that although property division has happened, residentially we have been disintegrated and the marital relations have become more important than the blood relations. So yes, nuclear families have been created, but that does not mean that we are living in isolation कि अब हमें अपने joint family से कोई लेना देना नहीं. जो कल को हमारी joint family थी, we are not concerned with them at all. Absolutely not. We are still maintaining ties. भाई आपके ताऊ चाचा के यहाँ अगर कोई फंक्शन होता है तो क्या आप जाते नहीं हो? भाई आपका प्रॉपर्टी पार्टीशन हो चुका है, आप अलग अलग रह रहे हो. अब आपके ताऊ चाचा पापा में मे बी द रिलेशनशिप इज नॉट दैट स्ट्रॉन्ग. योर पेरेंट्स हैव मोर स्ट्रॉन्गर रिलेशनशिप रादर देन एज कंपेयर टू व्हाट योर फादर हैज विथ हिज ब्रदर्स और सिस्टर्स. सो ऑब्वियसली न्यूक्लियर फैमिली आ गई है विद डिसइंटीग्रेशन ऑफ जॉइंट फैमिली, बट विद इन दैट इट डज नॉट मीन दैट वी आर स्टिल नॉट मेंटेनिंग टाइज विद आवर एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली. इफ दे आर in need, obviously financial help भी उनकी करते हैं. If there is any ceremony and it is possible for us, COVID नहीं है, so we do tend to attend that also. So nuclear family with extended ties, that is a common trend which is being witnessed these days. Is that very clear? ठीक है. Then another set of families which are emerging, that is single parent family. Why single parent? Can you give me some points? Why single parent families are emerging? Muskan, last point is conjugal symmetrical. Conjugal symmetrical, that is the last point. Conjugal symmetrical is the last point. I'll explain everything. अभी बस मुझे ये बताओ सिंगल पेरेंट फैमिलीज क्यों आ रही हैं? ऐसा क्या हो गया? Why single parent? ओके, अडॉप्शन, हाँ बिल्कुल। किसने लिखा है? स्निग्धा, एब्सोल्युटली करेक्ट। अरे यार, एक तो ये ना रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल चला जाता है, शिट। सॉरी भैया, फिर से चला गया रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल, प्लीज लगा दीजिए। थैंक यू, प्लीज लगा दीजिए। जस्ट गिव मी 2 minutes, दे आर जस्ट पुटिंग इट। कहाँ थे हम? सिंगल पेरेंट, somebody wrote about adoption, उसके बाद आई कांट सी, जस्ट गिव मी 2 minutes। मुझे लग रहा था कि सेक्युलराइजेशन मुझे अभी नहीं पढ़ाना पड़ेगा, बट मुझे लग रहा है कि एक इंट्रोड्यूस तो कर ही देती हूँ, बाद में डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे। सेक्युलराइजेशन का मतलब होता है, इन सिंपल वर्ड्स, वन लाइन, डिक्लाइन इन सोशल सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ रिलीजन। सिंपल, आई डिस्कस इन डिटेल विथ यू लेटर। सेक्युलराइजेशन एक लाइन में आज समझ लो बस, आई डिस्कस दिस इन डिटेल लेटर। Divorce, absolutely. Desire for independence, but embracing parenthood. Fine, one doesn't want to get into that social compulsions of marital institution. Brilliant. But obviously, they want to embrace parenthood. More implementation or exercise of freedom of choice. Brilliant. Divorce does not require, हाँ ठीक है point. Due to divorce, because divorce and separation no longer is considered as a stigmatic issue. So basically, single parent, it is emerging because of secularization. It is secularization of marriage is happening. That means religious significance of marriage is declining. एक time था marriage was considered as a universal institution. वैसे तो एक time के आज भी वही time है. The first thing that has been asked, settle कब हो रहे हो? No matter how educated you are, no matter how well you are doing in your workplace, but ultimately the question asked would be, when are you getting settled? Only with respect to your marriage. So even today also, the larger chunk of the society still considers marriage is the ultimate objective of your existence, and then having a male child is second ultimate objective of your existence. But having said that, the point here is, with secularization of marriage, the religious significance of marriage is declining. So no longer, especially for the urban educated community, no longer marriage is the universal institution. And also no longer divorce and separation is considered as a stigmatic issue. So, and third thing is, there are a lot of legal notions associated with marriage, and everybody doesn't want to bind themselves in that social compulsions which comes with the institution of marriage. However, they want to have parenthood. They want to experience parenthood. So that is also the reason why single parent concept is emerging. No longer premarital sex is considered as a taboo. One can have a child even without getting married. So that is another notion. So divorce हो गया, separation हो गया, adoption हो गया, surrogacy हो गई. So there are a lot of factors which have resulted into emergence of single parent household. लिख लो, secularization, that is social significance of religion is declined. Divorce, separation no longer considered as a stigmatic issue. Marriage no longer a universal institution. With provisions with respect to adoption, surrogacy, incidences of single parent household are emerging. Okay? Next, there is another set of household which is emerging, that is female headed. Female headed. Female headed is emerging because of certain factors. For example, the first is male specific migration. In order to reap the opportunities, it is the male in the family, especially from the rural areas, are getting migrated. So male specific distress migration is happening. So who's left behind to take care of the household? It is the women in the family. So that is also one of the reason of emergence of female headed household. Otherwise, मैंने आपको एक typical structure बताया था ना, centralized authority where the power is wielded by the oldest male member. But that kind of structure is undergoing a change. Now female headed households are emerging. One, that the reason is male specific distress migration. Second, the reason is feminization of old age. In old age bracket, you find more number of females as compared to males. So obviously, who's there to take care of the household? It is the females. Then third is obvious, that is women empowerment. So either it is due to women empowerment, or it is due to feminization of old age, or it is due to male specific migration, that there is a trend of emergence of female headed households. Is that clear? Then live-in relationship, ये तो globalization का direct impact है. Individualism, one doesn't want to tie down to the social norms of marriage. So there is more emergence of cohabitation and live-in relationship, where you although have emotional obligation towards each other, but then you do not have a social or you have interpersonal and emotional obligation, and that is very individualistic in notion, but you don't have any kind of social legal obligation. So yes, cohabitation and live-in relationship. Although live-in partners have been recognized under Domestic Violence Act, that's a progressive step. However, even then, social recognition to live-in relationship is far from reality. Although court has given recognition, Supreme Court, to live-in relationship, but the society is yet not prepared to accept live-in relationships. But this is a new form of family which is emerging because of a modern value system. Dual career means both husband and wife are working. But that does not mean that both husband and wife have same negotiating power within their marital relation. हो सकता है husband wife दोनों काम कर रहे हो, but due to patriarchal setup of the society, due to gender bias notions which are existing in the society, within the marital relations equation, husband has an upper hand as compared to the wife. So dual career mein, it is only dealing with the economic participation, that both husband and wife are indulged in the paid work. But conjugal symmetrical family says, conjugal matlab husband wife, symmetrical matlab similar. So within the husband wife marital relation or the equation, the negotiating power between husband and wife is same. So conjugal symmetrical family matlab both have equal status in the marital relation. So this is the very sharp difference between dual career and conjugal symmetrical. Conjugal symmetrical although is emerging in context of India, but very rare. But it is because of globalization. Is this very clear for everyone? ठीक है. Dual career मतलब both husband, ये मैं dictate क्या कर रहा हूँ, ब्रैकेट में लिख लेना. एग्जाम में you don't need to explain. These are key terminologies, no need to explain. Dual career means both husband wife working. Conjugal symmetrical means both husband and wife enjoys equal status in a marital relation. Equal status in the marital relation. Then let's come to this point, interpersonal relation. Obviously, a typical family was patriarchal, centralized authority. You were supposed to conform to the authority, not question them. However, with globalization, the relationships are becoming more democratic in nature. There is a decline in patriarchal relations. The authority of the parents over children is declining. Rather than authoritative parenting, we are more witnessing now democratic parenting. So patriarchal relations are declining. The authority of the parents over the child is reducing. So instead of a very common nature of authoritarian parenting, we are more witnessing now democratic parenting. Is that very clear? The status of women within the family has improved because of globalization. Not only that, even though you might have become nuclear, there might have been disintegration of joint family, but despite that, the quality of interaction, not the quantity, because obviously you're not meeting the other person every day, you are living in separate households, separate cities also, separate country also. The quantity of interaction might have declined, but the quality of interaction has improved. Why? Because of the penetration of social media. अब व्हाट्सएप पे सबके व्हाट्सएप पे एक फैमिली ग्रुप तो होता ही होता है, जिसपे बड़े रोज गुड मॉर्निंग, गुड आफ्टरनून, हैप्पी लोहड़ी, हैप्पी न्यू ईयर, हैप्पी रिपब्लिक डे सब आएगा आपको लिखा हुआ. एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली, whenever there is a birthday or an anniversary or something like that, the messages are there. And no matter whether you are active in the group or not, but whenever there is a birthday, there is anniversaries, we do have a tendency to message. At least I do. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, we do. And dare not leave that group. बिकॉज फिर तो जो डांट पड़ेगी ना अगर आपने गलती से वो ग्रुप लीव कर दिया. सो द पॉइंट हियर इज वेदर यू वांटेड और नॉट, बट आई बिलीव दिस इज अ गुड थिंग. एटलीस्ट यू नो द नेम्स ऑफ योर एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली मेंबर्स. एटलीस्ट यू नो दैट ओके फाइन, इट्स देयर बर्थडे एंड you're not interacting with each other, you're not meeting each other, but on their special days you get an opportunity to wish them. So jokes apart, but I believe this is a good way to remain in touch despite so much of individualism which is emerging. So yes, the quality of relationship has improved because of the penetration of social media. Is this very clear for everyone? Are the interpersonal relations clear? You can add more to it if you want. Then with respect to functions, okay, I have written economic functions have changed. I'll explain how. Role of family with respect to the education has underwent a change. The role of family in spouse selection has also underwent a change. However, two most important functions which family used to perform initially, that is primary socialization and agency of social control, is still performed by the joint family. Okay? Now, what I mean when I say economic function of the family has underwent a change. Traditionally क्या होता था? Joint family used to act as a unit of production plus the unit of consumption. Let us take example of traditional joint family. We were an agrarian society, right? So agrarian society mein the family members together used to produce the goods and they used to consume the goods. However, with emergence of, let us say, industrialization, there is emergence of factory system of production. As a result, family is now reduced only to the status of unit of consumption. Now family is not producing goods. ऐसा नहीं है, जिसका फैक्ट्री है वो एक अलग बात है, बट लार्जली क्या है कि पहले आप जॉइंट फैमिलीज थे, साथ में प्रोड्यूस करते थे, उसी गुड को कंज्यूम करते थे. बट जैसे जैसे प्रोग्रेस हो रही है, जैसे जैसे इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन हो रहा है, जैसे जैसे ग्लोबलाइजेशन हो रहा है, इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर इज इमर्जिंग, सर्विस सेक्टर इज इमर्जिंग, नाउ फैमिली इज कंज्यूमिंग व्हाट यू आर अर्निंग आउटसाइड. So family is no longer the unit of production, we are the unit of consumption. Now I am working for Vision IS, whatever I am earning from Vision IS, that is being used to consume by my family. My family is not producing goods now. Are you getting the point? So with knowledge economy, with industrialization, with globalization, what has emerged is that family has reduced to the status of unit of consumption. No longer it is acting as unit of प्रोडक्शन. बट अब ये मत कहना कि मैम जो लोगों का अभी भी फैक्ट्री है और ये सब है, ऑब्वियसली वो तो है ही. ये एक लार्ज ट्रेंड है दैट वी आर नोटिसिंग. इज दैट क्लियर? सिमिलरली, ये लिख लिया ना? सिमिलरली विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू, पहले क्या होता था यार, एग्रेरियन इकोनॉमी होती थी या फिर हैंडीक्राफ्ट आर्टिसन इंडस्ट्रीज वगैरह होती भी थी, तो हम लोग घर में ही होम बेस्ड प्रोडक्शन हुआ करता था, तो वट एवर स्किल्स आर रिक्वायर्ड वो फैमिली मेंबर्स ही दे देते थे. अब उसके लिए आप कोई स्कूल कॉलेज तो नहीं जाते थे ना. इफ योर पेरेंट्स यूज टू टीच यू हाउ टू वर्क ऑन द एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड, या आपको कारपेट वीविंग करनी है, या आपको पॉट्स बनाने हैं, पॉटरी करनी है, कारपेंट्री करनी है, कौन आपको स्किल्स देता था? पेरेंट्स ही तो दे देते थे भाई, घर के बड़े बुजुर्ग यूज टू टीच यू. But with globalization, with diverse job opportunities, there has been emergence of specialized institutions of knowledge. अब सीए की पढ़ाई तो घर वाले नहीं करा देंगे ना यार, या एमबीए तो आपको घर वाले नहीं करा देंगे ना. देर आर स्पेशलाइज्ड आईआईटी, तो भाई घर वाले आपको सिखा सकते हैं कि ऐसे पढ़ लो, या घर में कोई इंजीनियर है तो आपको बता देगा भाई एग्जाम ऐसे क्लियर कर लो. पर कॉलेज तो जाना ही पड़ेगा ना. ये थोड़ी ना कहोगे कि मेरे पापा इंजीनियर है तो मेरे को इंजीनियरिंग का सब कुछ आता है, ये तो नहीं कहोगे ना यार. कॉलेज तो जाओगे, डिग्री तो लोगे, ठीक है ना. सो विथ ग्लोबलाइजेशन, diverse job opportunities. To serve those diverse job opportunities, there are specialized institutions of knowledge which has changed the educational role of joint family. It has changed the educational role of the family. Clear है? Similarly, रोल ऑफ फैमिली विद स्पाउस सिलेक्शन. पहले माँ बाप जिसको चुन लेते थे उससे शादी हो जाती थी, आजकल तो ऐसा कुछ है नहीं, ठीक है. आपके पास शादी.com है, जीवनसाथी.com है, और आपका तो थोड़ा टाइम अलग है. हमारे टाइम पे तो कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स भी दे यूज टू सर्व. अब पता नहीं वो आपके लिए पॉजिटिव चीज है या नेगेटिव चीज है, बट बिकॉज ऑफ दिस ऑफलाइन change in the offline trend, you guys are restricted to online setup. Otherwise, coaching institute, so it was serving two purposes. Either it was helping you to become IAS or it was helping you to find a partner. So anyhow, professional and personal, both the objectives were served by the coaching institutes. So overall, coaching wala point mat likhna, but overall, the role of family with respect to spouse selection has underwent a change. Kyun? Globalization hai, individualism hai. You want to exercise the freedom of choice. You want to find your own partners based on companionship rather than based on caste or, business alliances or family associations. So obviously that has underwent a change. Is that clear? भैया जी, one last time response portal लगा दीजिए. I think there is some glitch, okay? वो अपने आप चला जाता है. हम क्लास के बाद डिस्कस कर लेंगे भैया जी कि कैसे इसको ठीक करें, बट फिलहाल आप लगा दीजिए क्योंकि मुझे क्लास एंड करनी है. सो आई जस्ट वांट टू नो इफ दे हैव एनी डाउट्स. सो डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड? इज दिस क्लियर? So this is with respect to the economic function. Then we have with respect to the educational function. Then with respect to spouse selection, you can add more functions to it. But this is basic minimum one should write. एक question लिखो. Write down. Institution of joint family. Institution of joint family is characterized by both. Institution of joint family is characterized by both continuity and change. Is characterized by both continuity and change. Inverted commas close, full stop. I'll again repeat. Institution of joint family is characterized by both continuity and change. Inverted commas closed, full stop. Discuss the statement in the context of impact of globalization on joint family. Discuss in the context of impact of globalization on the institution of joint family. Ten marker question. क्लियर है भैया? प्लीज लगा दीजिए. So with this, the topic on joint family comes to an end, and just give me 2 minutes. Just switch on the portal because I really don't know if you guys have any doubt. जब तक लग रहा है तब तक यही है. This is all about joint family, and next class I have day after tomorrow with you, so I will be starting with caste system. But जब तक वो लगा रहे हैं तब तक एक चीज देख लेते हैं. Let me just see. I don't know how many of you have referred to this. This is this year's society paper, as in जो इस साल का 2021 का है. So this is the handwritten notes which I was talking about. So these are the questions. Examine the role of gig economy in women empowerment and everything. So I have given different types of introduction. ये मैंने डिस्कशन में लिखा है, बताया है सब कुछ. तो अगर टाइम होगा तो डिस्कशन वीडियो देख लेना, और अगर टाइम नहीं है तो ये आंसर्स रेफर कर लो. बस इतना ध्यान में रखना, ये बहुत लंबे आंसर्स नहीं है. इट्स जस्ट दैट आई हैव रिटन डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ इंट्रोडक्शन. 2 तरह की डेफिनेशन है, फिर प्रीमाइस है, डेटा है. आई हैव क्लियरली रिटन एनी वन ऑफ दीज इंट्रोडक्शंस कैन बी रिटन. Then women empowerment, this is for your reference. What is the linking statement? How gig economy leads to women empowerment? What are the concerns? What should be the conclusion? Similarly, for other questions also, socio-economic implication arising out of development of IT industry in major cities. This is the premise. You can introduce the answer with any one of these points. I have clearly written it for you. तो आप ये सारी, then what is the linking para? देन पॉजिटिव इंप्लीकेशंस क्या हैं, नेगेटिव इंप्लीकेशंस क्या हैं. ठीक है, या तो आप ऐसे लिखते या फिर आप लिखते सोशल इंप्लीकेशंस क्या हैं, उसमें पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव, इकोनॉमिक इंप्लीकेशंस क्या हैं, उसमें पॉजिटिव नेगेटिव. मैंने क्या सोचा कि उन्होंने सोशो इकोनॉमिक इंप्लीकेशंस पूछा है, सोशल एंड इकोनॉमिक नहीं पूछा है. सो आई हैव रिटन पॉजिटिव सोशो इकोनॉमिक इंप्लीकेशंस एंड नेगेटिव सोशो इकोनॉमिक इंप्लीकेशंस. देन कंक्लूजन. So this is how. So this is what I want you to do, that whenever you are writing, obviously this introduction linking statement is not supposed to be written in the answer, in your final answer. This is only for you to refer, that in case this is how it has to be proceeded. Is that very clear for everyone out there? ठीक है. So ये क्योंकि अब रिस्पॉन्स पोर्टल ऑन हो गया है, so this is just for you to refer. तो जब टाइम मिले तो इसको देख लेना. It is there on the Telegram channel also. It is there on the description video. जो डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स है आपके YouTube सेशन का, उसमें भी ये दे रखा है. Just go and refer. ठीक है. So it consists of 6 questions of Indian society and 1 question of post-independence. Tomorrow I have a session of social justice in which I'll be discussing 3 questions, and then जो इस साल पूछे हैं, and then I have the session on ethics. So we'll be referring to that. With as far as society lectures are concerned, so today we are done with joint family. Do you have any doubt with respect to that? Okay, why didn't I discuss those two questions? वो एक sex ratio वाला और वो एक paradox वाला, because I want each one of you to prepare the structure, and day after tomorrow's class में first thing we are going to discuss that. But when I asked you, many of you said that you haven't written the answer. Please at least prepare the structure. Otherwise क्या होगा, जो class का discussion होगा ना, that would serve no purpose. क्योंकि anyway exam में they won't be asking you the question exactly from what we have discussed in the class. So you have to be prepared for uncertain, unexpected questions. So please practice that. Is that clear? So those two questions, one is UPSC question, why sex ratio among scheduled tribes is better than scheduled caste. Just think about it, brainstorm. And second brainstorming, why sex ratio has improved, but sex ratio at birth is still remaining a major challenge for our Indian leadership. That's one question. Then with respect to this question, impact of globalization wala on family, continuity and change, try to practice this question. By the way, Manish, that UPSC question, life cycle of joint family depends on economic factors rather than the social value, that would be the assignment question. Is that clear? So on this note, we conclude the lecture, and just refer to these questions. Okay, so we'll be meeting day after tomorrow. Bye people. Good night.